I want to introduce Soul Search. And we're putting it to the test in front of the entire Circle audience, here and globally. Do you feel ready? In seconds, the computer will select, at random, a fugitive from justice, a proven menace to our global community. Our assertion is that whoever he or she is, Soul Search will locate them in under 20 minutes. Let's select that fugitive. Okay. This is Fiona Highbridge, 44 years old, born in Manchester, England. She was convicted of triple murder in 2004. She locked her 3 children in the closet and went on holiday to Spain. They all starved. She was sent to prison in England but escaped with the help of a guard who she apparently seduced. Over 1 billion people are watching. Let's see how many are in the UK. Do you all think 14 million Brits and 1 billion global participants worldwide can find Fiona Highbridge in under 20 minutes? All right. Let's bring up the clock. Good. Is everyone ready? On your mark. Get set. Go! Okay, time to get serious. That's her. Be careful. I will. Fiona! Stop! Follow her. Stop her! Somebody stop her! She's a killer! Stop her! Somebody stop her! Stop her! Somebody grab her!
She must be kept safe.
Keep her safe.
Fiona Highbridge! No, no, no!
Stop the clock. I guess that's it.
Alright, Shalom, Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rachakwadash. Double honors to the elder apostles and elder bishops of Great Millstone who rule very well, very beautifully. Double salutations to the Akim and her pushing his gospel and truth and his sincerity to the best of their ability given to them by Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai. Peace, blessings, and salutations be unto the elect scattered abroad. May the election of Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Lord, will live upon your houses. This is the brother Quanah Roth from the Arizona Great Millstone Camp. Come back at you, Lord will, with the edifying lesson through the spirit and power of Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Lord will. It is edifying, Lord will. It is straight to the point. You know, and as you had seen, basically a video from the movie The Circle, right, which is, you know, an older movie, 2017, as you see right here, called The Circle. And this is a quick overview, right? It says May Holland, right, seizes the opportunity of a lifetime when she lands a job with the world's most powerful technology and social media company, which today would be Meta, right? Facebook, if you will, right? It says, encouraged by the company's founder, May joins a groundbreaking experiment that pushes the boundary of privacy, ethics, and personal freedom. Her participation in the experiment and every decision she makes soon starts to affect the lives and future of her friends, family, and that of humanity. And now, when you ultimately, look at this video and look at this overview of the movie called The Circle, right? If you've been paying attention, right, it ultimately resembles, right, this new technological advancement that they ultimately came out with called Palantir, right, which I do have it pulled up. I basically asked ChatGPT. I said, what is Palantir, and how is that going to be implemented in today's society? How will this affect the average consumer, right? It says, what is Palantir? Palantir Technologies, right, is a U.S. based software and data analytics company founded in 2003 by Peter Thiel, Alex Karp, and others. It specializes in creating powerful data integration and analysis platforms that help organizations make sense of massive, complex data sets, right? Which Palantir, right, is coupled, right? It's not just the actual technology itself, right? It's actually coupled with AI, right? It says Palantir offers two main platforms, right? Palantir Gotham, primarily used by government agencies, especially for defense, intelligence, and law enforcement, right? It says e.g. counter terrorism, fraud detection, military operations, and it's got what? Foundry, focused on commercial and corporate uses, supply chain optimization, financial analytics, healthcare data integration, which shows you right here that this is basically touching all aspects of society, man, right? From military, government use, all the way down to the average consumer business use, right? It says, how will this be implemented in today's society, right? Palantir's technology is already widely used and its role is expanding. So this is a technology, right, that is already being, used, right, in many different ways, right, within, within the world, really, right? Again, it says U.S. based, but this is something that they're using, right, all over the world, right? To catch certain criminals, to identify certain things, and it's going to go into that, right? It says government and security, used for threat analysis, border security, right there, border security, right? So they're already using this at the border, right? And when you watch a lot of videos, I think Elder Apostle Tahar did a video a little while ago going into these ICE agents, right, and how they're ultimately going up to migrants, and instead of instead of doing the fingerprint, when they apprehend these people, what are they doing? They're scanning their face, right, putting them into the system, or identifying them with the system, right? It says, and then they put bands, wristbands, right, on their on them, right, which is able to again, linking them to that system, that Palantir, surveillance, right, and monitoring system, because that's what Palantir is, right? It basically, again, using AI, right, it's able to identify, collect, and use, pieces of information, right, to help whoever is, basically operating it, right? So again, if the government's using it and they're trying to use it to identify or to spot out, migrants or criminals or whatever you want to do, it will ultimately help, and aid in that search, right? It says public health monitoring and criminal investigations, right? It's healthcare. Hospitals and governments use Palantir, right? It says governments, right? Plural, right? So it's being used all over the world, right? Use Palantir during the Crown Vic Royal to track infection rates, the jab logistics and supply chains. So this is, again, they were using this, right, to monitor, those who are ultimately, taking it, right? Because it says during the Crown Vic Royal to track infection rates. And how would they be able to do that, man? they had this whole thing of they were, people were, when they were, injecting the people with this serum, right? The icky vicky. People were saying that, people were getting the C hips put inside them, right? There was videos of dudes, they had just gotten, the injection right in their shoulder, and they're able to tap, their phone on their shoulder, and it would basically pull up, a site, if you will, right? So they're already using this, right? They're already, the healthcare systems, right? They're already using this to track people, right? By way of the C hip, man, which is only going to get more and more widespread, right? Which is Revelations 13 and 16, right? It says, industry and finance company use this to manage supply chains, detect fraud, improve manufacturing processes, and analyze market trends. Energy and infrastructure used to monitor critical systems, predict equipment failures, and optimize operations. This is in the future. Its influence will grow as more sectors rely on AI-driven analytics and large-scale data integration. Again, this is going to grow, right? The use of Palantir is going to continue to grow, right? And be used in everyday life, right? It says, how will this affect the average consumer? Palantir doesn't directly target everyday consumers like Apple or Google do. Instead, it works behind the scenes with big organizations. However, it still indirectly affects us in these ways, right? It says better services and efficiency. More optimized supply chains mean fewer shortages and faster deliveries, right? And especially, right, when it comes to, because again, they're not only is Palantir being, has been, issued, and, governments are using this, AI system, right? Surveillance system, data system, they're now implementing what especially here in America, right? They're implementing a stable coin, right? Which is able to be tracked as well, right? It's able to be linked to any kind of NFC or security element, right? Of these different, platforms, right? Purchasing platforms like Apple, right? Apple Pay or this, that, and the third, right? Apple is basically going to be opening up their NFCs and this security element, right? To allow, for that stable coin to be used on their platform, right? And by default, because again, right, stablecoin is a digital financial platform, right? It's going to be able to track that stablecoin, right? Your money, your purchases, It says improved healthcare outcomes, faster disease tracking, and resource allocation can improve patient care. How are they going to be able to track a disease, right? You have to have something within you, right? Because just going back to the Crown Vic Royale, they were talking about, putting, C hips or whatnot within people, right? Those nano C hips, right, in people that will be able to track, right, whether they're going to have some kind of disease in the future, right, based off of their DNA, and or if there's going to be a new strain of the Crown Vic Royale, which we heard, Kill Gates ultimately talking about that as well, right? So all of this is going to be, again, paired with the rice grain, right, the little brain C hip that Elon Musk and other different biotech companies are coming out with, right? This is all going to be put together, man, right? It says financial security. Banks and financial institutions can use Palantir to detect fraud more frequently, protecting accounts. Again, here you go, right? When it deals with money, when it deals with banks, they're going to be using this Palantir, which means they're going to be able to track, right, your spending. They're going to be able to track your habits, and have full control over that, and again, right, be able to use that to say, hey, you know what, we don't want you to buy this, or you're buying too much of this, or doing this or doing that, and then shutting off your account, right? It says privacy concerns. It says since Palantir works with sensitive data, there are concerns about surveillance, data privacy, and potential government overreach. Critics argue that wide-scale data integration can lead to more monitoring of individuals without adequate oversight, and that's the point, and this is ultimately summarizes, but, that's the point, right? Esau wants to be in your business, Let's go ahead and jump to Second Thessalonians 2 and verse 4 again, right? The most iconic scripture when dealing with Esau's mentality, and what he's trying to do, right, as far as his NWO, right? Second Thessalonians 2 and verse 4, it says, "Who opposeth and exalteth himself above all that is called God, or that is worshipped, so that he as God sitteth in the temple of God, showing himself that he is God." Right? This is ultimately what Esau wants. He wants to be able, right, to literally be the Most High, because the Most High is omnipotent. The scriptures say, right, the eyes of the Lord, right, are in every place, beholding the evil and the good, roughly paraphrasing. So Esau wants to be able to use this Palantir system, right, to be able to have his ears and eyes in every place, right? He literally wants to be the Most High. He's trying to create a system that will allow for him to do the same things that the Most High does. See, the Most High is a spirit, and the Lord is omnipotent. See, Esau is a man, and he has to create the technology, which the Lord is allowing him to do, in order to get to that point, man. The Lord got Esau in a fucking trick bag for real, But again, nonetheless, right, and the Lord is allowing for Esau to build this technology because it's building towards what? Prophecy, right, which is the most important thing. Right, prophecy being fulfilled, right? As we go into Revelations, the 13th chapter, right, and the 16th verse, it tells you right here. It says, "And he did." Matter of fact, we'll start at verse 14. It says, "And he deceiveth them that dwell on the earth by means of those miracles which he had power to do in the sight of the beast." And those miracles, right, are going back to the different abilities, right, that are going to be had, right, if people taking these C-hips and whatnot, right? You had something called blind sight, right, but you can look it up, right? Elon Musk was talking about putting C-hips, right, within the people's within the people, right, the brain C-hip and whatnot, and it will allow for them to see in infrared, thermal vision, so on and so forth. That's a miracle, right? Being able to change your vision just by blinking, right? Or they got a dude that is now, linked to the computer grid, right? It's called BCI, brain computer interface, right? This dude can basically type, I think what it was he can do 3,000 characters, right, of in a minute, and I could be understating that, if you will, right? And I knew it was at some crazy speed, that he was able to operate and look shit up and type things in and whatnot, just by thinking it just happens, right? By him, ultimately moving the cursor with his mind or his eyes or whatever it is, right? However he's doing it, that's still a miracle to the average, right? You got a dude that basically he was a paraplegic, right, from the waist down, for like 10, 15 years, right? He one of the first human trials that Elon Musk did, and now this man is able to walk. Right, not perfectly, but he's able to walk. He's able to move. Those are miracles, right? And again, he's playing on this, health. Just like you got RFK Jr. Basically saying that people need to, or trying to basically get it to where the average person is going to be wearing, some kind of trackable and traceable device, right? He just said that, I want to say a few days ago, right? Getting all the Americans to wear some type of health device, right? So that way they can track and trace, people's health and whatnot, which we understand, right? We're not ignorant of Satan's devices. We understand, through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bashem El Shah, what is going on, right? Esau's trying to, again, promote and push this digital system upon the people, right? It says, saying to them, verse 14, Revelation 13 and 14, and deceiveth them that dwell on the earth by means of those miracles, right? Because it's deception, right? It's deception. These aren't real miracles, right? And Esau might be passing it off as a miracle. Oh, look, he's able to do this. Look, he's able to do that. So on and so forth. But his real agenda is to get everybody, again, attached to this IoT, the Internet of Things, so that way he can track, trace, monitor, everything everyone's doing. Again, going back to that Second Thessalonians, right? That we read earlier. him wanting to be in control of all things, right? It says, which he had power to do in the sight of the beast, saying to them that dwell on the earth, that they should make an image to the beast, which had a wound by a sword and did live, right? It says, and he had power to give life unto the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed, right? So at the end of the day, you're going to be, excommunicated, right, from society, right? Where we just read that they were using this system, right, Palantir, right, during the Crown Vic Royale, right, going back to end of 2019, all of 2020, coming out of in 2021, they were using this system, right, and they were tracking and tracing how many people, got the Crown Vic Royale, right? They were tracking and tracing, right, this disease, right, the disease, right, going around, and they were also tracking and keeping tally of those who were not taking it, So at the end of the day, Esau got all his data, right? Because we understand that they said that it was a data system, right? It's data and analytics, right? It basically keeps all that information together, multiple different facets, of that data, right, is being kept, right, and they can go back and look at it and say, hey, cool, this, that, and the third, okay, this is how we're gonna move, right, based on the information that was collected, and again, as we saw during that time, a lot of people, right, were ultimately that didn't want to take it, that didn't have, the little green pass or whatever that they were, talking about. They weren't able to go into stores, weren't able to go into, any kind of venue or any kind of, movie theater or whatnot, right? Which again was a precursor to what is coming, right? Because as it says to be killed. When you go into that word, killed in the Greek, it's apoktino, right? Which goes into what? The meaning to be killed, right? Or to be put to death, right? But when you go into the root word apo, right, it goes back to what? To separate by physical distance, right? So we've seen that first step of it, right? Now we're coming into the time where they're actually going to be killing people, man, right? To if you don't have it, right, or you don't want to participate in this society, you're going to be excommunicated, man, from society, right? What did Klaus Schwab say, right? That you're going to need in the near future, you're going to need, right, an implantable device to participate in society. That was something that was tweeted by the World Economic Forum, right? Klaus Schwab of the World Economic Forum, right? This is the direction that they're heading, right? Forcing people, to take this charagma, right? Which is verse 16. It says that he causeth all. And when you go back, right, into the NLT, or you go into this word causeth in the blue letter, right, and look up the Greek word, right, it goes back to make or to require, right? To require who? Both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads. And this devices, right, the technology is already out here, right? We're seeing it, right? They're making movies about it, and now they have the same technology, but again, it just has a different name, right? They called it Soul Search in the movie The Circle, but they called it Palantir today, right? Which they call it the kill chain. The kill chain, right? They have a nickname for the Palantir. It's called the kill chain. Which, why would they call it that? Because it's able to identify, certain criminals, which allows them to go and eliminate those people, man. This is the time that we're coming into. This is what is going to be used, which is being used now, but it's going to be more openly rolled out, as far as, again, monitoring the people, digital, a financial system, digital healthcare, and so on and so forth, man, right? And it says what? And that no man might buy or sell save he that had the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. So again, he's going to be putting you into the position to where you're not able to buy and sell unless you have this charagma, unless you're linked, right, to that Palantir system via RFID micro C-hip, man, which is the mark of the beast. This is the time that we're coming into, man. Let me grab this strip real quick. And it's heavy, and really it's beautiful, it's really beautiful, man. Seeing all this, ultimately, transpire all this information coming out, because there's all these different things that, you know, we've been talking about here at Great Millstone, right? But it started with the elder apostles of Great Millstone on down, right? We've been talking about this coming, you know, coming to fruition, and that was happening, right? Everything that we've been saying for years, right, that's going to come to fruition, hey, everything's happening now, man. You know, which is, you know, ultimately, again, right, it's beautiful, but at the same time, right, the warning is going out, right? Even though, again, we see these things happening and everything's starting to come about, no matter how the situation looks, right, no matter how Esau basically, you know, because again, we know he's deceptive, right? We know he is the ultimate liar, right? Psalms, right, 10 and verse 7, it says his mouth, right, it's talking about the wicked, right, which we know the wicked, right, is the self-proclaimed so-called white man today. Esau, biblically called Esau Edom, right? Job 9 and 24, the earth is given into the hand of the wicked, right? And you can see, right, if you're you know, if the Lord's dealing with you, really, you know, because you got a lot of people out here, man, that you be asking them this question, who runs the world, you know? And they'll be like, man runs the world. No, what race of people runs the world? Oh, we all run the world. Stupid ass motherfucker. No, what race of people truly rule the world? It's the so-called white man, biblically called Esau Edom, right? Beginning with the elite banker families, the Rothschilds, Rockefellers, DuPonts, Gettys, Oppenheimer, so on and so forth, right? And these other nations and the leaders of these other nations fall up under them. You know? They're under their control. So we understand that Esau Edom is in control. He is the wicked, right? Malachi 1 and 4, right? The border of wickedness. Esau Edom is the border of wickedness, right? So this is who it's talking about, right? This is his, you know, his MO, right? Psalms 10 and 7. His mouth is full of cursing and deceit and fraud. Under his tongue is mischief and vanity. So he's a liar, right? So he's just a straight up fucking liar. So he's going to make this, you know, this system, right? This digital system. He's gonna make it seem very, you know, what is that word I'm looking for, man? He's gonna make it seem very convenient. He's gonna make it seem, you know, very up to date, very popular, you know, so on and so forth, right? That's why I said, and he deceiveth them, right? Because at the end of the day, all it is him basically getting you to be his perpetual slave, right? In fact, we'll grab that in Revelations in the blue letter, right? That charagma, right, is basically a stamp of a badge of servitude, right? Revelation 16, to receive a mark, right? Strong's G58, it's like a 5480, right? Charagma, right? Charagma, right? It says a stamp, an imprint, a mark, something that's gonna be put inside you, right? Thing carved, sculpted, graven. But it says right here, it says of the mark stamped on the forehead of the right hand of the badge, as the badge. That's not what I wanted. Oh, right here, i.e. stamp, right? It says as a badge of servitude, right? As a badge of servitude, in the, you know, the which, yeah, that's fire too. It says of the mark stamped on the forehead, really mean in, right, in the forehead or in the or the right hand, as the badge of the followers of the Antichrist, right? So it's a badge of servitude, right? So you ultimately taking this, meaning that you want this damn devil to be your ruler forever, perpetually. And this is what he's trying to do. He's trying to set himself up as a perpetual ruler forever, right? Trying to get his birthright back, you know. But that's not gonna happen, right? We understand that there's a certain narrative, right, that the Lord Yahweh B'Shem Yahshua ultimately set up, and Esau being a perpetual ruler is not a part of that narrative, right? As it says in, we'll go back to this, as it says in Job chapter 20 and verse 22, it says, in the fullness, it's like in verse 23, when he is about to fill his belly, meaning when he's about to really fully establish, because, you know, again, a majority of people on the earth have to take, you know, this charagma, right, before he can be brought down, right? When it says when he is about to fill his belly, right, when he's about to fill it, the Most High should cast the fury of his wrath upon him and shall rain it upon him while he's eating. So, but right before he can fully do it, right before he fully implements this, NWO, New World Order of his, right, to where he's a perpetual ruler, the Lord is going to cast it all down. Right? He's going to disappoint the device of the crafty, man. Right? Roughly paraphrase. Meaning he's not going to allow him to establish his NWO because the Lord has his own agenda. You know? A perpetual and righteous, a righteous perpetual rulership. Right? Being headed by Yahweh Shai. You know? That's what is ultimately, predestined to take place and to happen, man. You know, but again, Esau believes, right, that he's going to just continue. Right, but the scriptures say that the Lord, right, the deceived and the deceiver are his, right? The Lord is allowing this damn devil, right, to act like, and to believe that he's really going to be able to set up this system, right? And allowing his pride to be built up so that way his fall can be hard, right? The bigger they are, the harder they fall, you know? Lord's finna bring this damn devil down hard as fuck, man. You know, and we can't wait for it, man. You know? And all those, right, of you Israelites, you 2/3, right, you so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans here in America, as well as, the Israelite foreigners that might be here in America, 2/3 of our people, a large portion of them are going to take this charagma, and that's going to be the death of them, right? They're going to receive of the same judgment, right, that Yahweh Shem El Shai is going to bring upon them, which is going to be what? Nuclear fire. This is why all these nations are creating these different nuclear weapons and separating themselves from America. It's all prophecy, man. Prophecy is happening right before our eyes. This is all prophecy. We understand that before World War III can happen, the mandatory implementation of the RFID micro C has to take place. And we're seeing it, right? Habakkuk 2 and 3. At the end it shall speak and not lie. And though it tarry, wait for it, because it will surely come, it will not tarry. It's here. Right? And to aid all this, right now they're coming after, at one point they were coming after heavy, right? As far as in the news, they're coming after, and they still are, right? Gathering up the northern tribes. But they just ultimately just made it to where now they can start snatching up the southern tribes. So Jacob's trouble is on the rise, man. Right? Jacob's trouble is on the rise, civil war, right? Which is going to lead again into, them, offering that sea hip, enforcing that sea hip, because he, and this is again speculation at this point, but it's not too far fetched, at all, right? He's going to deport a lot of these people and then turn around and say, hey, you want to come back into America, hey, you got to take this sea hip, and allow them back if they have the sea hip. While everybody here in America, is seeing what's going on. They got rid of the CFPB, right? They got rid of different government agencies that are ultimately protecting the consumer. So while they're deporting people and offering them the sea hip, they're going to be stealing the people's money here. You're going to be putting jobs are going to be lost. People are going to be in a very sticky situation. And what is he going to do? He's going to come with his solution and say, hey, you want your loved ones, to stay here. You want a job, right? You want that UBI, that universal basic income, right? Which they already did, their trial run on that, right? When it came to these stimmies, a lot of people were with it, man. So they're gonna be, they're gonna be bribing the shit out of people to take this charagma, man. He's still gonna try to make it look as sweet as possible to the average consumer. Because Esau done put you people in a position to where you rely on convenience. You rely on things being done for you. And that's why when he comes with this solution, a lot of people are going to take it. But again, the prophets, the true prophets, Yahweh Shem El Shai, are telling you not to take it, man. And we'll bring this out and we'll close out, right? Revelations 14, we'll start at verse 9. It says, and the third angel followed them, saying with a loud voice, if any man worship the beast and his image and receive his mark in his forehead or in his hand, right? It's talking about anybody, right? The same shall drink of the wine of the wrath of the Most High, which is poured out without mixture into the cup of his indignation, right? When you take alcohol, man, and you mix it with something, man, it kind of makes it, right, not as harsh, right? Because sometimes you take a straight shot or something like that, man, it, got that burning feeling in your chest and your throat, Hey, well, imagine that. The Lord's saying he's going to dish out his wrath with no chaser, man. It's going to be straight judgment. No chaser, no mercy. You know? It says, and he shall be tormented with fire and brimstone in the presence of the holy angels and in the presence of the holy Lamb. It's like in the presence of the Lamb. Meaning you're going to be destroyed, man. By ICBM nuclear fire. You know, and the Lord has control over all the elements. So if he wants to slow down the deterioration, you know, and amplify the pain receptors within your body as you're being burned, hey, the Lord can do that. And he can slow down time, right, within your mind, so it feels like you're being burning for hundreds of years. But in average, to the, you know, to the naked eye, right, it only took you about 2 seconds to be burnt to a crisp. You know? Hey, that's how the Lord. The Lord is what? Omnipotent, all powerful, man. The Lord can do that for sure. You know, no question, no thought. He can just do it, and he won't be wrong doing it. Right? Because the Lord is not a human, right? That he's gonna sin, right? The Lord is not a person that, you know, as the scriptures say, Numbers 23:19. He's not a man that he should lie, nor a son of man that he should, should repent, right? The Lord's gonna do it, and best believe the Lord is gonna be righteous doing it, you know. And this is why we say, do not take this charagma, no matter the situation, you know. And I pray Yahweh Shemel Shai allow us to be in that spirit all the way into the end, right? Verse 11, it says, and the smoke of their torment ascendeth up forever and ever, and they have no rest day nor night, who worship the beast in his image, and whosoever receiveth the mark of his name, which is the mark of the beast, the charagma, the RFID micro C hit, man. You know, do not take it no matter what, right? This is, Lord will, right? This is some edification going out as well as a warning, right? Showing you what it is, the system that he's setting up, and warning you not to take it, right? We understand what's coming, right? It's prophecy, right? But no matter the situation, do not take the charagma, you know? Well, that's all I got, man. You know, just wanted to ultimately touch on that. You know, Lord will was edifying. Lord will straight to the point. I want to give all praise, honor, glory to Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Bahashim, Rachak, Wadash, Double R, and said the elder apostles, the elder bishops, the great millstones. Till next time I say shalom.